Hello, my name's Alana Moldavan. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I live and work on unceded Tongva land. I'm a senior research associate at Human Impact Partners, or HIP. At HIP, our mission is to transform the field of public health to center equity and build collective power with social justice movements. The title of this presentation is You Can't Find a Way Out: Safety and Economic Security for Farm Workers on the Front Lines of Climate Change. In this talk, I'll describe a recent research project that explores the ways in which Sonoma County farm worker safety and economic security have been aggravated by inadequate government and industry labor policies related to climate change. I'm going to start by describing our research principles at HIP. I'll then describe the project background, what we did, how we did it, and what we found. And then I'll close out by describing the link from research to advocacy and thanking the many people who contributed to this work. So I want to start by describing our approach to research at HIP. The research that we do is policy-focused and strategic. In partnership with community organizing groups, we conduct collaborative research that centers the experiences of communities impacted by injustice. We evaluate health impacts and inequities in order to support targeted campaigns and movements for social change. We also have a research code of ethics that we hold ourselves accountable to. Our code of ethics contains 7 principles that are intended to ensure research is ethical, responsible, just, and accountable to the communities and community organizing groups that we conduct research with. We're currently preparing to share those principles widely and host an accompanying webinar in early 2023 that will be open to anyone who is interested in attending. For the time being, I'm going to weave these principles throughout this presentation and call attention to them when they do show up. 2 principles that I want to uplift now to start are our value of conducting research in collaboration and close communication with partners, and our commitment to ensuring that our research is beneficial and supports our partners' work to improve living conditions. For the research this presentation focuses on, our partner was North Bay Jobs with Justice. North Bay Jobs with Justice is a grassroots coalition of more than 30 labor and community organizations in Sonoma, Napa, and Marin counties in California. The North Bay is in reference to being north of the San Francisco Bay Area. Within the North Bay, our research partnership focused specifically on Sonoma County, which is highlighted on this map in orange and called out with an arrow. As a brief background, Sonoma County is known for its booming wine industry, which is valued at $1.9 billion. There are over 11,000 farm workers in Sonoma County's wine industry, nearly all of whom are immigrant workers. In our research, many respondents identified as Indigenous as well. Like other places across California and around the world, Sonoma County has been heavily impacted by devastating wildfires. The 2017 Tubbs fire occurred within the county and burned almost 37,000 acres. In other years, smoke from fires from elsewhere in the region have floated into Sonoma County, causing dangerous air quality indices. In recent years, the county has also seen excessive heat warnings, with temperatures in some area of the county hitting as high as 110 degrees. So within this context of climate change in Sonoma County, the specific problem that led to this research are inadequate government and workplace protections that harm farm worker safety and economic security. Another problem is that some decision makers in the area create a false distinction between safety and labor, when in reality, economic security and climate crises are inextricably linked. So that led us to our research question. How have Sonoma County farm workers' safety and economic security been aggravated by inadequate government and industry labor policies in the context of climate change? And when we say climate change, we are referring specifically to wildfires, extreme heat, dangerous smoke, and drought in Sonoma County. So to answer this research question, our goal was to seek methods that uplift and reflect immigrant and Indigenous farm workers' lived realities in Sonoma County. One of our core values, including in our code of ethics, is that research should do this. So what exactly did that look like? We explored income loss and experiences with climate change and economic security using mixed methods research. We conducted a literature review to explore what we know from the literature about the health effects of income loss, the health effects of exposure to fire, smoke, and heat, and what we know about farm worker experiences with income and safety as captured by other work, both in general and work within the context of climate change. We also held 2 casual pre-interviews with farm workers to simply chat and learn about the structure of their work and pay so that we could take those learnings into account when developing the research instruments. The goal was really to make sure that the research instruments reflect their lived reality. For example, from those conversations, I learned about experiences that I otherwise might not have thought to ask about. I also learned about how the way that people are paid looks really different in different seasons, which helped me draft the questions around income and pay and income loss. One of those instruments that these conversations informed was a survey, which sought to quantify and explore income loss and respondents' experiences with work and pay during times of climate crisis. We received 33 responses to this survey, which was collected in person in Sonoma County at 2 different events. Finally, we held an in-person focus group that asked open-ended questions about work, pay, and climate crises to explore respondents' experiences, leave space for the conversation to move in a way that was meaningful for the participants. There were 9 attendees. I think it's also important to emphasize not just what we did, but how we did it. As mentioned before, one of our core values is around collaboration and close communication with our partners at North Bay Jobs with Justice. The goal was to do research with them. What that looked like was frequent check-ins, which turned out to be about every 2 weeks with texts, calls, and emails in between. It also looked like seeking feedback on all things at all times, including research instruments, drafts, framing, and connection to policy asks. It also looked like joint decision-making and taking the time to develop relationship, learn about their vision and preferences, and follow that vision. We also collaborated with the folks at North Bay Jobs with Justice to connect us to people for the pre-interviews, support with survey administration, and support with holding the focus group. Clearly, this is a lot, so we also developed a sub-grant to compensate our partners for their time. So that's in terms of partner collaboration, but we also have strong ethical values around the way that we work with community. One of our core ethical values is that community members should be compensated for their time participating in research activities. We provided gift cards and food at the focus group. We also protected anonymity and ensured that participants had the authority to determine how their experiences are included. So what that looked like is that there was no request for a name, date of birth, or employer on the surveys. And at the focus group, participants had the agency to determine whether they were recorded, whether they were quoted, and if they were quoted, what name they would prefer to appear next to their quotes, if any at all. Maybe they preferred to remain anonymous. And in all activities, we included clear communication that participants could end participation at any time for any reason. And then finally, we knew that all of our activities, the pre-interviews, the survey, and the focus group would be in Spanish for participants, and we ensured that there was also an oral option. The focus group was, of course, oral, and many surveys were administered orally as well. So now I'm going to talk about our findings. The farm workers we spoke with reported losing an average of about $1,500 during a typical month where their work was impacted by severe climate conditions. Some people even lost their job entirely after missing work due to climate conditions when their employers just never called again. And for context, the average California-based agricultural worker makes just over $17,000 annually, according to estimates. So an average of $1,500 is quite a big chunk in comparison to typical annual earnings. Also, as context, the late summer harvest is the time when farm workers make the most income. And it's also the time that coincides with wildfire season, heavy smoke, and extreme heat. So the money that folks make during the harvest matters a lot, and losing it matters too. Actually, over a third of those we spoke to said that they felt the impact of this income loss for months to come. We heard from farm workers that this loss affects their ability to afford rent, food, transportation, and activities they enjoy, all of which are linked to health and wellness. From the academic literature, we also know that economic instability and income loss are associated with depression, anxiety, and poorer overall health, including higher rates of heart disease and stroke. As one worker said to us, "We know that a day that we don't work is a day we don't get paid and we don't have money to pay for our expenses. We cannot say that we are not going to work because it's raining or because of the smoke, the air quality. We do not have that privilege." So, in order to avoid this income loss and its many effects, the majority of farm workers we spoke to said that they always go into work no matter the climate conditions, but most actually don't want to. The folks we talked to cited financial pressure, employer pressure, or fear of job loss as the main reasons for not going in when they don't want to. But in some cases, workers are forced to stay home due to experiencing sickness from extreme heat and smoke. In our focus group, one person shared being hospitalized because their lungs were functioning at only 50% during a time with wildfires. From the health literature, we do know that there are short and long-term health consequences of exposure to extreme heat and smoke, including heat stroke, which can be fatal, difficulty breathing, and chronic heart, lung, and muscular illnesses. We also know from other research that farm workers are over 30 times more likely to die from exposure to extreme heat compared to workers in other US industries because they cannot afford to miss a paycheck. So you can see that this situation, without adequate government and industry labor and safety protections, creates an impossible trade-off. Sacrifice your safety or sacrifice your paycheck, both of which have harmful health effects associated. Something that a worker in our focus group really told us that really captures this feeling of being caught. They said, "Sometimes you can't find a way out. You realize you're locked in a room with four walls and you cannot find the door." As I mentioned earlier, nearly all of Sonoma County farm workers are Latinx immigrants, and nearly 3/4 of the farm workers we spoke to in research identified as Indigenous. These communities experience multiple forms of structural violence, including racism, anti-immigrant sentiment, and a long legacy of legal exclusion. Indigenous communities also face continued harm from genocide, colonialism, and land theft, alongside cultural and linguistic isolation. So these issues I'm describing, namely wage loss and exposure to hazards, are examples of the inequitable impacts of climate change and continue this legacy of oppression that has made immigrant and Indigenous farm workers especially vulnerable to harm. So as researchers, we believe that we have a responsibility to ensure that our findings are tied to meaningful action to improve living conditions. What these findings clearly tell us is that Sonoma County farm worker health, wellness, and economic security are being harmed. And our findings also demonstrate a strong, urgent need for government and the wine industry to respond to the risks that farm workers face. As I mentioned earlier, one of our ethical values is that our work will be done to support our partners' work in improving living conditions. North Bay Jobs with Justice has a policy platform called 5 for Farm Workers in Fires, which includes 5 demands for farm worker safety and dignity. Some of these demands fall to local Sonoma County government, and others fall to companies in the wine industry. In collaboration with our partners at North Bay Jobs with Justice, we identified 3 out of 5 demands that our findings particularly point to. The first is disaster insurance, which will cover lost wages from climate crises, therefore mitigating economic stress and promoting safety. The second is hazard pay, which will appropriately compensate workers who put their safety at risk on the front lines and support creating a financial buffer. And the third is language justice, which is the concept that all safety and evacuation information should be provided in workers' first languages to ensure respect for Indigenous workers. During the course of our partnership with North Bay Jobs with Justice, the policy landscape actually shifted with some really powerful victories for farm worker safety and economic security. In the summer of 2022, the Sonoma County Board of Supervisors allocated $3 million to a disaster fund for workers who lose work due to wildfires, and they also voted to ensure language justice in safety trainings for workers affected by evacuation zones. Also, E&J Gallo Winery, who's a major grower in Sonoma County, committed to providing time-and-a-half hazard pay for workers anytime the air quality index is over 150, which is the level at which the air becomes unhealthy for all groups. So these wins are really powerful and very significant, and there are still continued gaps for farm worker justice. $3 million of disaster insurance will quickly run out in the face of ongoing and aggravating climate crises, and E&J Gallo is only one company of many. So our work had to be responsive to these shifts and arising campaign needs. In the final research project, we made sure to be clear about these wins, the gaps, and next steps, namely calling upon other companies in Sonoma County's wine industry to join the movement and provide hazard pay. And there's one more value in our code of ethics that I haven't mentioned yet, and it is that follow-up will continue after research completion. Our research with North Bay Jobs with Justice demonstrates a strong need for multiple safety and labor protections for farm workers, and HIP will continue to provide ongoing support. Thank you for watching this presentation. I also want to extend my deepest gratitude to the dozens of Sonoma County farm workers who shared their experiences with us, and also to the many wonderful people who contributed to this project, including folks at Human Impact Partners, at North Bay Jobs with Justice, and people who are friends of both. If you have any questions, I invite you to reach out via email. My email is here on the screen. And I also invite you to view the full report at humanimpact.org/frontlinefarmworkers. And last but not least, these are my references and attribution for the slides template. Thank you so much for your time.